Score, 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 score. Hip and the lip. From unknown parts of metropolitan New York City, I am the hip, and this is the lip.
Good evening, Score! NHL hockey is back, everybody. Score!
Oh, it is.
How
I was
exciting!
just saying score for the Mets.
Oh, yes.
Or score for the Jets. Score into the other end zone. Score.
I think the Jets and Giants have like a combined 3 touchdowns this season. Not too much.
Score. Semi-coat. Score.
Exactly. The other team, it's score, touchdown, score. Yeah, if only had Doc calling those wonderful NFL games. Scores!
So we are
another broken coverage.
New York. We are a New York Score Sports podcast. I'm Hip. This is the Lip, and we are starting to shift back towards hockey now.
That's right. Well,
are we as a New York Islanders podcast?
That's right. Are we officially a New York Islanders podcast again, or are we just going to roll along with this New York Sports podcast thing?
I think I'm going to say no. I think we're going to continue to be a balanced podcast. Obviously, we're going to have to shift some more time to the Islanders as their season opener is tomorrow night at Madison Square Garden.
That's right.
And the NHL season is here. Well, we have plenty of other New York sports to continue discussing from previous episodes and beyond. So to answer your question, no, I don't think this is going to be just like break down every Islanders game and move on. If there's nothing else to talk about, fine. But I think we're watching an evolution.
All right.
Or listening to.
But don't our listeners want that in-depth analysis of every single Islanders game? Let's break down the second period now. Well, in the first 3 minutes, the Islanders had exactly one good chance. Let's break down that chance. Oh, an excellent play started by Nicoletti in his own zone, transitioning the puck up ice, and then Tavares with a good scoring opportunity going glove side down the right wing. Yes. Let's break it down
I think it just helped our listeners answer their question for themselves.
Let's break it down some more, actually, frame by frame.
So we got the Giants update, we got a Jets update. Both teams now excitingly under 500 going into week 5. Going into week 6.
Well, this may be an Only Islanders podcast because baseball's done. Both New York football teams suck. And I guess the Knicks, if we're going to talk about the Knicks, they may be good, with that rapist guy that's playing for them. So,
well, he had sex with her after the other guy did, though, in the same house, I thought. So it was at the same time.
I get it. I don't know.
So
we'll see how that turns out.
See how that climaxes. So
a nice pun there.
All right, so let's get to the Giants. They are now 2-3. They lost pretty tough. Well, I shouldn't say tough. I should say at Lambeau Field, where they just could not really sustain any offense whatsoever. And here they are sitting at 2-3 with Dallas and Philadelphia at 4-1. And the Giants host the Baltimore Ravens this Sunday. Baltimore Ravens just fired their offensive coordinator, although the Ravens had gotten the lead late last week on a touchdown pass to Brashad Perriman, but it was called back and they ended up losing. I wonder if that firing would have still happened. Probably not. Anyway, what is the what is the theme here going into Baltimore based on your takeaways from Lambeau?
Well, let me just say that spectacle we saw on Sunday night was one of the worst, most embarrassing just displays that I've ever seen from two opposing parties. Oh, and that football game was also bad too. That Giants game, that was also bad.
Yeah, you're opening the door here. And we could go down it and discuss it, but I don't see anything positive really coming out of that. Or anything productive, because that's pretty much what we've been witnessing. So I think we just have to let that play its course
Are we talking
And
about football or presidential? The presidential election.
well, if I'm talking about football, then we have nothing left to talk about, so I can't be. Just all I'll say is I hope everyone listening, if they're able to, actually votes. So do your part, and we can break it down at a future time.
Yes, participate in our American style democracy. Yes,
that's right.
But well, I guess
everyone has a voice.
Yeah, and there it goes. Well, I had the two TVs on. Excuse me. Had the two TVs on in my living room on Sunday night. I had the Giants, of course, on one, and then had that other thing with the woman and that angry jack-o'-lantern that were just trading barbs with each other all night. So I honestly don't know which spectacle was more unwatchable, though. But the little bit I did watch of the Giant game, I mean, terrible. I mean, just awful. There's really very little to take out, at least positive to take out of that game. I mean, where do you start? If you want to start with the offense, you look first to the offensive line, which was offensive, to say the least. Eric Flowers, who ended up having a incident with a ESPN reporter in the locker room after the game, was absolutely brutal. May have been the worst game of his career. This was a former first-round pick of Jerry Reese's, and this was a former first-round pick of Jerry Reese's, and Jerry Reese is very much on the hot seat, as we all know, for this season. And Flowers has definitely regressed from last year. I mean, his first few games he was okay, nothing. He was holding his own, but he was especially terrible on Sunday night. The Bobby Hart, who has been filling in for Marshall Newhouse on the right side, the right tackle position, was also pretty bad. And they were both just basically revolving doors to Eli Manning, who had very little time to throw the ball down the field, as we know is his strength, and as we know is what makes the Giant offense go, especially with that trio of wide receivers. And, I mean, that's really where it begins and ends for me. I mean, Manning was bad. Eli has not had a good year. I mean, you just look at his body of work this year. It's not been good. But he just had very little time to throw the ball, and I guess if we want to transition to the defensive side of the ball, you look at the Giants defensively, and Aaron Rodgers in the game that he performed in on Sunday night, he had the complete opposite conditions of Eli Manning. He had all day to throw the ball. He could have, I think he checked his watch a couple of times, going through his progressions of wide receivers, because he had nobody even remotely close to him the entire football game. So, I mean, a tale of two offensive lines there.
Not that he played that great. I mean,
no, he didn't. Oh, he did not play a good game at all.
The Packers were set up to pull away, and they didn't. Giants stayed in the game.
They did, and it was mainly because of their secondary. I thought the Giants secondary played a great game. You heard about Rogers Cromartie, who was basically playing on one leg, limping, gutting it out as much as he possibly could. Janoris Jenkins finally was able to gather the first couple interceptions, which are the first two turnovers forced this year by the Giants defense. Bravo, Steve Spagnuolo. But that secondary held up very, very well, especially considering that Rodgers had all day to throw the football. I mean, the Packers, put up points, put up enough points to win. The Giants were able to get if you want to call it a garbage time touchdown at the end of the game. The Beckham, his first of the year, and I guess made out with the net after that. I guess that was his way of apologizing to the net for punching it a couple weeks ago. So they had a nice intimate moment there, him in the kicking net. So that was very lovely to see. And yeah, that was basically it. Giants were able to get a push, and if you're if you're a gambling guy and we're looking at that point spread, a backdoor push. And yeah, I mean,
I suggested this in a previous show following the injury to Shane Vereen. The Giants were moving the football, I think, perhaps a little more effectively when Shane Vereen was playing. And Bobby Rainey is catching passes, but they're more garbage time.
And he led the team in receptions, and you can't have that. If he's leading the team in receptions, you got big problems.
Right. But what I don't understand is why the Giants haven't tried to incorporate the type of Vereen plays that were helping them move the football with the receivers that they have. Everything to me seems pushing it down the field. Why don't they mix in some like wide receiver screen plays or quick slants? I don't feel like we saw too much of that. or at all in the last few weeks.
No, not
Instead
really.
of just these, right? I mean, they just seem to be trying to, and I think they're going to have to make that adjustment because clearly offensive line is not giving Eli enough time to push it down.
Yeah, and actually, I think Paul Perkins, the rookie from I believe UCLA, I think he can really be a help to this offense. I mean, Rainey's a nice player. I think he should still be involved in the offense. Again, Vereen, of course, being out for the year, but I think they should definitely try and get Perkins more involved, and I think they will.
I wonder if it's a pass protection issue with him.
Yeah, probably. I mean, that's usually the case with these rookie running backs is that they're not good in blitz pickup and pass protection. So. I definitely think that factors in terms of the amount of reps that he's getting. But I mean, the one thing that you keep hearing is that the Vikings did it last week and then the Packers again on this past Sunday is that they're playing just a basic cover 2 style defense, and apparently the Giants are just baffled and trying to beat it. I don't understand what the issue is. I mean, this is as rudimentary and basic and fundamental a defense as you can play in the NFL. The deep safeties, with the corners, playing up and then, basically leaving the middle of the field. You have those soft zones in the middle of the field there. And, the Giants, I guess they just don't have they don't have enough time to complete their routes. Manning is just not finding the open guy. He doesn't have enough time, or they're not finding the soft spots in the zone. I honestly don't know what the issue is, but that's what you've heard over the last couple of weeks is they're playing a basic cover 2 defense. And the Giants don't know how to beat it. So the McAdoo and company are going to have to adjust here and figure out a way to get these receivers open and allow Eli to, to be able to make plays through the passing game, because it has not happened at all over the last couple of weeks. Yeah, the Giants were moving the ball some the first 3 weeks. I mean, they did accumulate a decent amount of yardage, but they weren't scoring touchdowns. Now the last couple of weeks, they haven't been able to move the ball at all. Against, granted, a great defense in Minnesota, but this is not the Packers' defense is not exactly the '85 Bears. Plus, they were missing their 2 starting cornerbacks. So,
well, the Giants have no running game either. I mean, now it's almost one. I mean, it's almost a one-dimensional offense now.
But Orleans Darkwa, though. Orleans Darkwa, come on.
Exactly. So, that's tough, though. I mean, now they know what's coming. I mean, they can keep 7 in the box and get away with it now. Defenses. So probably. So unless Orleans Darkwa or Paul Perkins or whoever proves otherwise, that's why I think they have to mix it up. I want to see some more short stuff to, Shepard and Cruz and let Beckham stretch the field. We'll see.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Eli's, he's at his best when he's working off play action. When you have a good running game, when he's working off play action, that's when he's at his best and he's able to throw the ball down the field. And it just hasn't been there. But no running game.
They got to adjust. All right. Well, I mean, try to get back to 500 against
This is a big game against the Ravens. I mean, it's a game at home. I mean, the Ravens are a pretty good team, but they're not exactly a great team or a team that can dominate on one side of the ball.
Yeah, I was going to say, is any team a great team?
Well, if we want to get
still undefeated.
If we want to get into that, I mean, if you want me to answer that question, I would say no. I don't even know how many very good teams there are. Maybe a couple I would classify as very good. Not a lot.
It's a pretty interesting.
It has been you want to ask? I mean, I think the play in the NFL this year has been bad. I mean, you want to talk about just the definition of mediocrity. I just watch an NFL football game right now. I mean, just. The play has been abysmal. It's been terrible. It's amazing to me, and this is maybe why the NFL ratings have dropped as much as they have. I love seeing these articles speculating as to why the ratings have dropped. Oh, why have the rating? Is it the presidential election? Are people upset at Colin Kaepernick still, and players that are protesting our national anthem? Is it?
You don't think it's the election?
Peyton Manning? Well, that's one of the theories as to why the ratings have dropped as much as they have.
I'm asking you.
I'm sure it factors in, but I guess the question is, after the election is over, are the ratings going to come back? If they do, then maybe our question is answered. But I mean, I still watch because I have a vested interest in that. I have a rooting interest in a team, plus I have a rooting interest in players and financial interests. So I will watch, but I'm not exactly enjoying what I'm watching. I mean, some of these games have been absolutely, especially the prime time games, have been unwatchable, and that will include my football team, and which. I mean, I thought last Sunday's game was awful.
You didn't enjoy watching Jaquiz Rodriguez carry it 16 times in the first half of Monday night?
Jaquiz sighting. How many carries did he end up in that game? 30 carries, I think.
I don't know. He had 16 in the first half, I think.
I think it was around 30. Something like that.
Okay, so you want to go from, kind of crappy to like just awful
train wreck, dumpster fire.
Yes, and that is your New York Jets. Now, we can't say we're surprised that they're sitting at 1-4. Given the teams that they've played, that's not an excuse. Their play has not been good regardless. They've tried to stay in games and keep them respectable, but they're running into this trend where the last few games they just get out of hand in the second half and just get outclassed and outplayed. Hey, Ryan Fitzpatrick threw no interceptions to a
silver lining
to a steel curtain defense.
Very much a steel curtain. I would say it's more like a silk curtain.
I mean, look,
they're hanging up there in
keep
Pittsburgh.
Le'Veon Bell in check, relatively speaking, yes. But Sammy Coates on the first or second drive of the Steelers, just deep shot down the sideline. We all knew that was going to happen, and the Jets knew it was going to happen, and they couldn't stop it.
Yeah, I mean, your hope there is that Sammy Coates will drop the ball since he drops 4 or 5 passes a game, but he caught that one.
Sammy Coates, I think, has a reception of 40 yards or more in every game this year.
Wow.
This was nothing new, and they could not. The guy. I did not see it live. I saw a replay, and he just ran past the receiver.
You didn't see it live? Did you get a notification of the touchdown? Was the hip cheering? Yes, Sammy Coates.
Really?
Mixed emotions.
So
just for to let everybody know, Mr. Hip has.
Everybody knows that the Jets secondary sucks, and what are the Jets going to do to stop that? I mean, that's really this pass rush looked great against Andy Dalton in week 1. I think they got him 7 times or something. And since week 1, they've been non-existent. Even Sheldon Richardson didn't even play in game 1. And since then, their pass rush has been worse.
Amazing, right? Unbelievable. I mean, Wilkerson signs that huge contract. Where has he been? Williams, looked like he was going on to have an all-pro season after that first game. I mean, who
would have thought?
Yeah, that defensive line has been non-existent.
The Jets handed it to the Bills in Buffalo, week 2. The Bills fire, of course, their offensive coordinator, not their defensive coordinator, Rob Ryan, who's the brother of the head coach. And the Bills have not lost a game since, and the Jets have not won a game since, which I think is really fascinating.
That is fascinating, actually. I mean, you thought the Bills were on their way to having an 0-16 season. Looking at
the Bills, after the Bills lost to the Jets, they've beaten the Cardinals, the Patriots, and the Rams.
Pretty good.
With the Patriots and the Rams on the road. I don't know about the Arizona game. Regardless, the Jets have lost. That was in Buffalo. The Jets have lost all 3 games since. It's actually really mind-boggling. I still go back to that game and try to understand how this is the same quarterback from that week versus the last 3 weeks. He's just a completely different player. I don't get it. Is this now? We learned today Eric Decker placed on IR, done for the year.
Yep.
I think that's they had a good trio of receivers. Well, Quincy Enunwa is no Eric Decker, and they have no third option whatsoever. Bilal Powell out of the backfield. That's it. They signed. Go figure. On the Jets now is Austin Seferian-Jenkins, one of our fantasy football predictions. He did. I mean, low risk move for them. So it doesn't get any easier this week.
Huge loss. Decker's a huge loss. I mean, it's a huge loss for me as being a fantasy owner of Decker, but it's a bigger loss for the Jets. I can withstand it. I have some guys on the bench I can put in place of Decker. The Jets, though, they have nobody. I mean, Enunwa, I think he was a good compliment as a third receiver to the Marshall and Decker. I mean, Decker really, he was really underrated, I thought, and how important he was to that offense last year. I mean, Marshall gets most of the press. He's, the more dynamic player. He has a bigger personality than Decker, more charismatic personality than Decker. He has so everybody knows about Marshall. Decker was just as important to that offense last year as Marshall.
Decker had a streak that continued into this year, I think I mentioned this previously, of at least 80 yards or a touchdown in like 15 consecutive games. Something absurd.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, the Jets' offense
incredible
right now, I don't know what, they should try and, get Forte more involved, whether it's running the ball more, getting more involved in the passing game. Because right now, you have Marshall and Forte, and that's it. I mean, Enunwa, he can be a compliment, you hope, at best. But, I mean, right now, your two best players on offense are Forte and Marshall, and, you can't throw the ball to Marshall every play. So, I honestly, I don't know what to make of the Jets right now. I mean, this is a game. It's as much the game.
They
in
have
Arizona
zero
this
depth
week.
at receiver. They have no depth at all.
Yeah.
There's nobody.
Their secondary is a disaster. And where were the Jets at? The Giants, amazingly. The Giants, we talked about their depth in the secondary, which is now being very much tested. So what did the Giants do? They go out and sign a guy, a corner that was just cut from the Rams, Sensabaugh, I think is his name, who was, considered a pretty good cornerback. I don't know what happened with the Rams. Seemed very abrupt and very unexpected that he was cut. But you figure the Jets would have been in on him. I don't know if they were, if they weren't, but the Jets secondary right now is a complete disaster. Their front seven is not playing nearly as well as they have to in order for this team to have any kind of success. And their offense just is terrible. It's very pedestrian. It's predictable. You have a quarterback that you just are afraid every single time he reaches back to throw the ball, it's going to go into the other team, to one of the opposing jerseys. And right now, the Jets, you don't really have that many positives to look at in terms of the rest of the season and in terms of their prospects for the rest of the season. The Giants, I think you can at least say, well, hey, if they figure out the way to put this together, if they figure this out, if they can get their offense going, whatever.
Well,
the Jets,
if the Jets front seven plays like we think they should, that could be enough to keep them in ball games and get some wins.
Right, and their schedule does lighten up a lot. So they're going to have some winnable games on their schedule after this week.
They'll be in some games. Look, I'm not trying to paint a picture here where they're going to go 1-15, but
nor am I.
They have to. But they have to. I mean, this sounds cliche, but for a team that is going to be more reliant on defense, turnovers for them are that much more painful than a team that can, score or like throw down the field in 3 plays, like Drew Brees, Aaron Rodgers, or Eli Manning. So they have to play super fundamentally sound. There's very, very little room for error for this team, obviously, at this point.
Yeah, and their schedule, they play after the Cardinals. They're at home to the Ravens, and then they go to Cleveland and Miami, and then they're home for the Rams, and then you have the Patriots, and then Colts, 49ers, Dolphins, Patriots, Bills. So it's not very daunting, that schedule. Have some very, very much very winnable games on that schedule.
And fortunately for the Jets, I mean, this league, like we said before, there's no super standout teams. That I think the wild card will be in play for most of the year, provided they hover around 500 or near it at least.
Yeah, and we saw Kansas City last year win that, was like 11 games in a row or something after they got off to their terrible start. So, nothing is impossible. And the Jets right now have 4 losses. So you say, hey, if they can figure out a way to win in Arizona this week, which who the hell knows who's playing quarterback for Arizona? Are you going to have the absolutely awful, terrible, brutally bad Drew Stanton, or are you going to have the almost as bad Carson Palmer, who was awful before he got hurt? So
yeah, he was. I was thinking they should re-sign Ryan Lindley. That was the name that when we were going through the list of the all the backup Cardinals quarterbacks, that was the one that this was like 2 or 3 shows ago. That was the one I could not remember. We said John Skelton. We said
John Skelton, yes.
A few others. Anyway, not much more to say about the Jets. Well, we are going to close with the Islanders. Before we do, because there's plenty to say. The season openers tomorrow night or tonight for, nobody's listening to this tonight, I doubt. But when somebody listens to this tomorrow morning, the game will be tonight. So before we get there, though, we are, the Mets and Yankees are both out, but I have to say it's been a super exciting first, wild card and then divisional round for Major League Baseball. I mean, just completely filled with drama and excitement from, David Ortiz's last game with the Cleveland Indians of all teams sweeping the Red Sox, the American League East champs. Cleveland Indians just continuing to be that little engine that could, with playing super fundamentally sound baseball with a depleted pitching staff. I don't know. Terry Francona.
He's done a great job. He's
getting the job done again.
He's getting the most out of that team. I mean, he is definitely.
There's a guy that has had a lot of success in the postseason, whereas Mr. Joe Madden, who gets all this, respect for the genius that he is, hasn't had quite that much postseason success. So now he's with this team that's a 100 game winner and fought off the Giants, who put up a pretty good fight. Took a crazy comeback last night for the Cubs to close out that series. I mean, they still had a game in hand, but Giants gave them the best they could, and and then this Dodger National Series has been great, which culminates tomorrow night. So I feel like we're seeing some fun baseball right now.
I think the Giants actually called Timmy Lincecum to ask if he wanted to pitch in the ninth inning yesterday, since they went through everybody else.
I heard some people today.
Matt Moore cruising along.
There were people questioning the decision. It's so easy to do the next day. Why'd you take out Matt Moore after the 8th inning? He was doing so well. He only threw 120 pitches, and you knew that bullpen was so bad.
It's fair though, and I think a lot of people. I don't
know. No,
I mean, you want to say hindsight and 20. That's fine, but I think as soon as I was watching, as soon as he was taken out, I said, "Why?" Unless he said he has nothing left, he's gassed, he's got nothing.
3-run lead.
But the bullpen is that bad. I mean, the bullpen is legitimately that bad. It's not like you have it's not like you have. See, if it was the Mets, let's say you bring in Familia. Familia, what is the reputation now for Familia? Great regular season closer. Had however many saves in a row in 102 years, but now has the reputation of being a terrible postseason closer. They brought him in. It was the question last year with Harvey in Game 5 against Kansas City. Do you leave in your starter? Do you bring in your your closer? Harvey said, "I'm staying in." He stayed in. He got hit. Mets ended up losing. The Giants bullpen, absolutely, again, terrible. You have your starting pitcher cruising along. It is a 3-run lead, but you just let him. It's his game to lose. Let him finish it.
Maybe what they should have look. Bruce Bochy, you got to give the guy a lot of respect. He's won 3 World Series in the last 6 years. I mean, that's pretty remarkable. It's tough to question a guy with that level of success. That being said. Maybe what he could have done was put him back out there. First base runner he allows, yanks him, and that's it. If he manages to have a clean inning, so be it. He wouldn't have thrown that many more pitches anyway. First batter he allows, go to the bullpen. You're still starting your bullpen without the tying run on base. I don't know.
Yeah, just think 40, 50 years ago, you tell like a Juan Marichal or a Bob Gibson, after 120 pitches, oh, you're done. They would have looked at you like, are you kidding me?
Well, yeah, but Matt Moore.
I still have another 40 pitches in me.
How many times has Matt Moore pitched into the 9th inning? I mean, I think I heard he had 1 complete game in his entire career going up to this point. So I understand.
And Bochy has won 3 World Series, so you have to defer to the guy that has won 3 championships in his career. You figure he knows his team, he's got the pulse of his team, so that's fine. But it's just a terrible way to lose. I mean, you have a 3-run lead in the 9th inning, and your bullpen just completely spits the bit, and just.
Yep.
I mean, before he even blinked, I mean, the game was tied. I mean, it was unbelievable just how quickly the Cubs and the Cubs looked like they had nothing. They were lifeless all game. I mean, Matt Moore had him off balance all game long, and he comes out, in comes the ball.
It's the best game of his career,
boom,
probably.
Boom, 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 and game is tied, and they take the lead in conjunction, of course, with an error, throwing error on an attempted double play, and there you go. Giants are done. Cubs move on. We get to hear all the Cubs stories now. Is this the year? 108 years. Is this finally the year? Well, let me ask you, are you rooting for the Cubs right now?
No, because they're the favorites.
Okay. But they are the historical underdogs, though. So, yes, they are the favorites to get to the World Series in the National League, but they are the historical underdogs. So that aspect, that angle, that doesn't appeal, at least to root for them?
If it's the Cubs Nationals, I don't know. I don't really like the Nationals.
Well, Bryce Harper's a jerk.
Exactly, and I feel like the attitude, unfortunately,
I like Dusty, though. I do like
cascades.
Dusty. I am kind of rooting for Dusty, and it would be interesting to see him play the Cubs in the.
Has Dusty won a World Series?
No.
Hmm.
You know, he got all the blame after the Cubs. Remember, of course, in 2003 with Pryor and Wood, and he got blamed for, blowing out their arms essentially.
Joe Madden World Series?
Has he won? No. He took Tampa Bay there in 2008. Dusty. Has
he been in the World Series?
He didn't manage the Giants in 2002, right? He wasn't managing the Cubs that year. Or was he managing the Cubs that year? I'm not sure.
How dare you?
I know.
Well,
it's been bothering me now.
I don't know.
I do like Dusty, though. That's the one thing about the Nationals. I mean, I love Clayton Kershaw. Like I love, and it was such a shame to see him, come out with the bases loaded yesterday, and that, he has a 5-2 lead, and then, he loads the bases, and then again before you blink, the game is tied, and you see him just sitting in the dugout there, like helpless.
Daniel Murphy.
Daniel Murphy, there he is again. They got the guy,
is he an MVP candidate?
Oh, sure he is. I mean, he had 340 something with 25 home runs and close to 100 RBIs. Absolutely, he may win it.
Yeah,
he may win. Just more salt into the wound for Mets fans.
MVP. Oh my God.
MVP Daniel Murphy.
Oh my God. Wow. Well,
I do remember Mets fans though calling the fat man back.
Net negative.
Well, I used to scoff though because I would hear a couple Met fans call up and go, "He's a special player, Daniel Murphy. He's special." And I would just sit there like, "What the hell are you talking about?" Because he had been in the. I think he was just like called up or something, and he had a couple like really good weeks where he was hitting a bunch of doubles and never. And I'm just like, "What are you talking about? Like this guy, he'll be lucky to have like." To play like three years in the league before he's banished to AAA.
Well, he obviously made an adjustment last year.
He did. He did.
His ball's leaving the ballpark now. Good for him.
Yeah. No, I mean he's also a guy that's easy to root for, or at least I just find it funny to root for him at the expense of Mets fans.
Yeah. All right, I think it's time. For your New York Islanders season opener tomorrow night at the New York Rangers. Hockey is back. Hockey is being played real games right now.
Yes, as we speak, as the Blackhawks lose to the Blues. So that you thought that Chicago Cub magic would have rubbed right off onto the Blackhawks. Well, not so for the opening game.
Rub it off on your face after the score, Parenteau.
Well, yes, Doc will be saying that for the New Jersey Devils. Score, Devils, Parenteau.
Right. So Parenteau was one of the free agent acquisitions in the offseason who would supposedly help fill the void created by the departures of Franz and Maddie,
and Kyle,
of course.
And Maddie had a fight tonight for Toronto. He doesn't have the locks anymore. I guess Toronto has a similar rule to the Yankees: no sideburns. Mattingly, I told you to shave those sideburns. So no more flowing locks. Really? Yep, no more flowing locks for Matt Martin in Toronto.
So hand it to us. You've given us some snippets of a preview here, but there's been some roster developments in the last few days, right? So where do we stand with this roster right now going into tomorrow night?
Well, the big story, of course, is the fact that P.A. Parenteau, who, of course, just mentioned, is no longer on the team. He was put on waivers only a couple days ago, and he was claimed by the New Jersey Devils. Not exactly a surprise that a team would want to claim a guy that's coming off of a 40-point year, a 20-goal year, in which he only has a 1-year contract at a reasonable price of $1.25 million or whatever it is. So he is no longer going to be a caddy to John Tavares on the first line with him. So the question now is, well, first the question is, what the hell was Garth Snow thinking? That's question number one. Question number two is, who the hell is going to play with John Tavares this year? Or is it just going to be everybody? Everybody gets a turn. Who went last game? Who gets a turn this game? How about Chimera and Bailey? You guys get turns now this game. And the next game, Prince and Quine. Let's just keep the revolving door moving of John Tavares' line mates. I think he's up to like 122 now, I think, during his time with the Islanders.
Well, when you say what the hell was Gart thinking, are you referring to the signing portion or the placing him on waivers?
Well, so what I said about Gart Snow's off after the Islanders skated off in Game 5 against the Tampa Bay Lightning, I said Gart Snow has one job: make the roster better, improve the team, which of course is obvious for every GM to make your team better. If the Islanders, though, have aspirations of making a Stanley Cup run, they were not going to make that run with the roster as constituted. This wasn't like, well, they have all the talent there. They just have to learn how to win. They just, maybe add another piece or two, good veteran supplementary piece, and then they're going to make their run. No. They had to bring in talent to supplement what they have now. And Gart Snow let 3 guys walk. Now, Martin, as much as we love Martin, as much as he was a heart and soul guy and won the Bobby Nystrom Award every year that he was here, he is very much a replaceable player. Okposo and Nielsen, now you're getting into very, very different territory. Kyle Okposo, of course, being, one of the top 5 right wings in the league. Average, the last couple of years, 60 to 70 points. For the most part, play with Tavares. Obviously, Nielsen, who had 50-plus points for the Islanders last year, kind of a jack-of-all-trades guy, plays on the power play, penalty kill, plays center, plays, he can play in all situations. So those are 2 guys that are hard to replace. So what does Gart do? So he brings in Andrew Ladd. Ladd's a good player. He's a good, solid player. He can potentially, be a 50 to 60 point guy, especially playing with Tavares, which he will, I'm sure, play on Tavares' left wing for at least the start of the year. We'll see how that plays out. But Ladd's, a good player. If you want to say that Okposo's production was for the most part replaced with Ladd, whatever, fine, give or take a few points. But the other 2 guys that were brought in, Jason Chimera, who has been essentially a 4th-line player his whole career. He's 37 years old. Granted, he's come off of a 20-goal season, but can you realistically expect that from him again this year? No, unless, of course, he's going to play with Tavares, which we'll get to in a moment. And then P.A. Parento, who had 67 points, which was a career best. I guess it was 4 or 5 years ago, playing with exclusively with Tavares. And Gart was thinking, okay, I'll bring him in. He's not that old. He can still play. At least I think he can still play. And, if he can rekindle that chemistry with Tavares, and he can, he's a right winger and he can carry the puck on the power play, and, he has a feisty edge to his game and yada, yada. He can fit right in, and we can hopefully pick right up where we left off last year. Okay, fine, whatever. The team is not better. The team is absolutely not better with those 3. But you say, all right, let's see how they can mesh. Let's see if you get him, if you have other guys that from last year that'll improve their play and rebound from bad years last year, like Strome, who we'll get to. No, but instead, Parento is gone. Now, the question is, why? Why is he gone? So we don't know, because Garth, of course, doesn't have to answer to anything, since nobody in the mainstream media here in New York gives a damn. So, Arthur Staple, he'll report it, but that'll be it. Oh, they waived him. They waived him. That's all I got to say. No explanation, no nothing. And so Gart Snow, of course, is never, ever, ever held accountable by the media in this town, since, again, they only, nobody gives a damn about the Islanders. So, why did they waive him for? Well, the big money is on the idea that Gart Snow did not want to lose his 3rd goalie, which is Mr. Muddy Berube, for those who remember episode 5. So that would be, of course, Jean-Francois Berube, who is right now the 3rd goalie.
Mark.
Sorry, Mark. He is the 3rd goalie of the 3-headed goalie monster, and it may only be a monster to Islander fans once the season gets going. But that is the ongoing, at least the consensus theory, is that they didn't want to lose Berube, because if they had to do something to get their roster condensed to 23 guys by Tuesday at 5 o'clock, and they didn't want to risk putting Berube on waivers out of fear that he would be claimed by another team. because he can't send him to the minors without putting him through waivers first. Whereas you have a couple other guys that are now in the minors, guys like Adam Pelech, and you may remember Ryan Pulock, who we were all expecting to be in the top 6, to be in their top 6 defensive core and play opening night. Well, we know that will not be happening since he's back in the minors. But because of the fact that he didn't have to go through waivers, it was easy just to dump him back in the minors to get down to 23 guys. I can live with that. But was it that Parenteau was that bad in training camp that you said, this guy can't play anymore, we don't need him here anymore? If it wasn't because you had to keep Berube, was it because you have the 2 kids now that have not been sent back to juniors yet, Barzal and Belivier, who we talked about last week? So are you giving both of those guys a 9-game tryout? But you wanted to, but we're not going to see both of them play the first 9 games. We're just going to, we'll see them alternate and maybe play 10 minutes, in 2 or 3 games each, and then both of them will get dumped back to the minors. Back to juniors. Then we can watch Josh Bailey and Alan Quine and Shane Prince light up the scoreboard with. Maybe a combined 7 or 8 goals between the 3 of them for this season. Wonderful. But regardless, Parenteau is not here. He is now in New Jersey, and we have no idea who the hell is going to be on the right side of John Tavares come opening night, although Jason Chimera apparently has been occupying that side during practice. I don't know. I honestly don't know what the hell Garth Snow is thinking.
Well,
you look at the lineup right now, and you say, how the hell is this team getting back to the playoffs with the lineup as it is now? I don't know. You're hoping on a bounce back from Nelson. You're hoping at least Nelson can improve. Yes, he scored 25 goals last year, but you need to see him improve his overall game. Ryan Strome had a miserable season last year. Terrible, just absolutely abysmal season. Very talented young player. You're expecting him to bounce back, or you hope that he bounces back, because if he doesn't, the Islanders, I don't think, are going anywhere this year, and I think they'd be extremely lucky to even make the playoffs. So I honestly don't know what to expect. What kind of lineup we're going to see tomorrow night. I don't know what kind of lineup we're going to see in a couple months. I don't know what kind of lineup we'll see after the trade deadline. If we're going to see, maybe Joshua Ho-Sang or Michael Del Claw called up at some point. Do both Barzal and Bolivier stay on the roster the entire season? My money would say no, that one of them will go back. But here's what I will say, is that if they're both going to be here, they both have to play the 9 games. Both of them have to be in there for the 9 games. None of this crap where, we're gonna play one and then play another one, and then we'll have them both sit in the press box and we're gonna have them learn by watching and go into meetings. No. They are in the damn lineup. Then put them both in the lineup for the 9 games. If it doesn't matter, Bailey, Prince, Quine. If Lee's off to a bad start, cool him in. It doesn't matter. I understand that you can say, well, the team is trying to win games and you want to go with your best, but right now, if you have them both here, that means that you're expecting them to be contributors to the team this season. This is not like Toronto, where we're going to have our young players, go through the growing pains, and they're going to play together. And if we finish in last place again, oh well, doesn't matter. It's about developing their game. No, if the team is supposed to take the next step, then they have to be contributors, and you have to find out now if they're going to be contributors. If not, then send them both back. If they are, then keep them here. If you think that they can contribute to the team having success now. But the only way you're going to figure that out is if they play right now.
Right now.
None of this crap. Well, Bailey. We have Bailey. No. I don't care if Bailey parks his ass in the press box for 9 games. They are both in the lineup if they're both here, and that's it.
Has Bailey ever been a healthy scratch?
Oh, yeah.
Was he during the playoffs?
No, he just, we were screaming for him to be a healthy scratch, but he only missed a couple games when he was injured.
Was he a healthy scratch at all last year?
He may have been. Maybe a game, if that, or 2.
That's kind of.
Look, it's just the team right now is just saddled with mediocre players. You have a guy in Prince. Prince and Quine, I like their games, and I think that they can, be pretty good either depth or fourth line players. But if you're asking them to play, top 6 minutes, that's not what you're just not going to have a good team.
To play top 6 minutes. He's been good in the minutes that he's played, but isn't it time to see if he could do more with more minutes?
I didn't hear you said who?
Clutterbuck.
Clutter, Mr. Clutter.
I mean, why keep him on the fourth line? Let's just put this guy. Let's consider him a top.
I'll be honest. If you ask me who I prefer on Tavares' wing, Chimera or Clutterbuck, and Clutterbuck is a right winger. So right now the Islanders, I think, have literally one right winger. That would be Clutterbuck. But if you ask me who I'd rather have, I would say put Clutterbuck in with.
Let's give Clutterbuck, top 6 minutes. He didn't do that last year. Wasn't even close, right?
No, he was exclusively on the fourth line last year.
He was really good when he played.
Yeah, but you know what? I mean, the guy. I have no problem with that. I mean, I have no problem giving this guy more minutes. I mean, they like him obviously with Cizikas and Kulemin. They feel that they can roll that line. That's going to be better defensively now. Matt Martin was definitely a liability in his own zone. Kulemin is much better in his own zone. So they figure, okay, we can have those three play together, and we can play them. We don't have.
Why does it have to be Clutterbuck playing with them? Why can't it be someone else?
It doesn't. I mean, right now, Capuano, we've seen him just be very, very static in terms of his decision making, and that trio, or at least Cizikas and Clutterbuck, have played very well together over the last few years, and he just doesn't.
Isn't it a bit more? Clutterbuck has played really well.
Cizikas has been good, at least for his role. I don't think he was $3.5 million a year good, but especially considering the minutes he plays and the production that you get out of him. So that's also another head scratcher by Garth, which I think we did talk about after that deal came about. That deal was signed a few months ago. But it's a good point that you make. I'd be perfectly fine giving Clutterbuck top 6 minutes, or even playing him with Tavares to start, because right now there's nobody else that you look at and you say, oh, this guy has to be with Tavares other than Ladd. So Clutterbuck is a natural right winger. He has a very good release. We know he can score. If he had more minutes, maybe he can be a 20-goal scorer if he played those kind of minutes. Is he the solution? Is he the answer next to Tavares? Probably not, but right now you don't have anybody else. So I would say, give it a try there. I don't know what they're going to do down the middle. Obviously, you have Tavares. Nelson will probably play at center, and you have Cizikas. But is Strome going to play at center? I think he has to. I don't see any way that he can't, that he plays on the wing this year. He has demonstrated that he is not a good winger, and he is a natural center, so you're going to have to play him there. But then where does Barzal play? Barzal's a natural center. Do you play him on the wing? You can argue that a young player should play on the wing, at least a young center, because he has less defensive responsibilities. And you can hide him a little bit better in his own zone, or as opposed to playing center. But can he play there? You can't just automatically say, well, if he's good at center, then he can play on the wing. No, it doesn't work that way. So, my question my question would be, can this team coexist with both Brock Nelson and Ryan Strome playing center behind Tavares? And I don't think the answer. I think the answer is no, because if Barzal is as good as they anticipate him being, if he's going to be that potential second line center behind Tavares, the future second line center behind Tavares, then that is, of course, Tavares is still here. Then I think they have to get rid of at least one of Nelson or Strome, and that guy may end up being Strome.
Is Yaroslav Halak starting tomorrow night?
Apparently he had an illness, but if he's not ill anymore, then he should be. Yeah, if he's healthy.
What kind of split do you see between the goalies for playing time, like percentage-wise?
I mean, right now you have 3 goalies, so I don't know I still don't know what their plan is with Berube.
What do you think? I'll repeat the question. Not what is their plan? What do you think will be the split?
If everybody's healthy for a full season, how about 50, 20, and 12? I don't know. 50 for Halak, 20 Greiss, 12 for Berube.
That's 82.
Yeah. That's for the split. There's
100. It needs to add up to 100. Oh, you mean? Oh, I see what you mean.
Percentage or game?
Okay. Well, 50, 20, 12. So that's
I don't know.
That's like 65% for Halak.
And it may be less. I mean, I don't see him if they have those 3 guys on the team the whole season, and they do plan on playing Berube. I mean, you can't just have him sit there and not play at all. So, I mean, Halak may play even less. Halak may play 40 or 45 games. especially if Berube or Grice picks up where he left off last year. And if again, I don't know if they just love Berube that much. They feel they have no depth at the position in the minors, and they say we can't let this guy go because there's nobody that we feel confident in calling up. I don't know what their rationale is for keeping Berube on the team, because nobody has 3 goalies. Nobody. Only the Islanders do.
Do you think the Rangers have a better team on paper than the Islanders? Just
so
off the top
asking me, or you're asking what everybody else thinks?
You're the only person listening right now.
They're close. The Rangers are going to look a little bit different this year. They brought in that kid Vesey, who we talked about. They traded Derek Brassard for Mike Zibanejad, who is a good young player. So the Rangers do have a few new faces. They have Michael Grabner, the former Islander. We'll see if he actually cracks the opening night lineup tomorrow night. The Rangers have issues on defense. They obviously need Ryan McDonagh to play big minutes for them. Jan Girardi looked like he was done last year. Was it just that he needed the extra time in the off season? We'll have to wait for that question to be answered. The Rangers obviously have the one constant in Henrik Lundqvist, who is still an all-world goalie until he proves otherwise. Despite his age and the amount of games he's played, he should continue to be a rock for them in net.
Taking pucks to the throat. Doesn't take too many more pucks to the throat.
Whoops. And are they better than the Islanders? I would say the Rangers maybe are slightly better than the Islanders right now, because the Islanders, you look at that forward grouping. It doesn't leave you with a lot of optimism for this season.
And you think the Capitals are still the favorite again to?
Well, now that Sidney Crosby is going to be out indefinitely with a concussion, and who the hell knows when he'll come back, if he'll come back, since he has a history there. I would have said the Penguins are still the class of the conference with Crosby, but now no Crosby. The Capitals are still a very talented team. They will definitely be up there in the standings, barring something catastrophic happening. They just have too much talent, but they just don't win in the playoffs. So that's the one thing that for Capitals fans every year is, okay, we know we'll be good in the regular season because we have so much talent, but will we get it done in the postseason? And will this finally be their year? I don't know, but they will be up there. The Penguins are going to be there. I think if you ask me right now about the Devils, I think the Devils will definitely challenge for a playoff spot. I think the Devils are definitely improved. And I think they'll definitely be nipping at the Islanders and Rangers' heels all season long, and could potentially secure one of those playoff spots, maybe at the expense of the Islanders or the Rangers. But, I think you have, I think the bottom of the Eastern Conference is not very good. I don't think Columbus is going to be very good. I'm not a big fan of, I know Carolina's made a few moves. I don't think I think they're still a year or two away. Boston, who knows? Boston, they still think that they're contenders, but I can see them having a pretty bad year, and potentially Claude Julien getting the axe.
The Lips team by team breakdown. Here we go.
I know you didn't ask for that, but we kind of evolved into that since.
Can't help yourself.
The Bruins, Claude Julien, score! Hockey's back! Score! And it's 1-1 in LA and San Jose.
I'm ready for the hipster beer of the week. How about you? Unless there's any final words you want to throw out there before tomorrow night's puck drop.
Well, here's what I'll say. The Islanders need Nick Leddy to step up and be one of the best defensemen in the league this year. For the Islanders to take the next step, they need Leddy to take the next step too. And they need Boychuk to get back to where he was a couple of years ago. They need Calvin DeHaan to play a little more consistently. I think Pulak will be back up here, and I think he can be a very much an X factor too, especially if he can unleash that big shot in the power play and make that power play and into one of the better units in the league. So I think their defense could be solid. We'll see, how that shakes itself out. Dennis Seidenberg will be in the lineup tomorrow night. Why? I don't know. He was brought in as a depth defenseman, and he's there for opening night. I don't understand that one, but whatever. here's what a couple other notes I will say about the Islanders. First off, the schedule makers for the NHL, you can go screw yourselves. The team, I think, plays like 80% of their home games in the first 2 months, or maybe not that much, but they play a ridiculous amount of home games in the beginning of the season. So what does that mean? Well, of course, it means that they're going to be playing most of their road games in the second half, including a 9-game road trip. That's right, remember the 7-game road trip from last year, right? Remember that one?
Which they were 6-1,
yeah, or 6-1, yeah,
whatever it was, 6-1.
And I think every game they play terribly. I think we said, except for maybe like one game. But they have a 9-game road trip in the second half. So screw you, NHL schedule makers. Yeah, I mean, the question is, what will this roster look like, in a couple of months? Let's say come the All-Star game, will this team look the same, or will you see maybe some new faces? Will the kids be there? Will Joshua Hosang or Michael Del Col be called back up? Will there be a trade? Does Garth actually have something up his sleeve when he cut Parento? I honestly don't know, but I guess we will be here for every excruciatingly suspenseful moment in the Islanders 2016-17 season. Yeah,
Scar! Tomorrow we will be at Rattle and Hum West.
That's right. Yes.
Come find. Yep, come find Hip in the Lip. Rattle and Hum West, not Rattle and Hum East. Rattle and Hum West, 39th, between 8th and 9th, but just off 8th Avenue.
That's right, watching some Islanders.
Very good craft beer selection.
That's right, watching some Islanders Rangers and some Dodgers Nationals Game 5, yes. And that's right, we will be enjoying some very good craft beer. And with that, should we transition now?
Well, yes.
Into the hipster beer. Wait, what was that?
Broncos Chargers as well.
Oh, yes. That's right. Talk about W gas. Oof. Yeah, the Broncos Chargers.
If you're a Chargers fan, man, what a tough year so far.
Yeah. Oof. Another probably unwatchable game. All right, now with that, the hipster beer of the week. Take it away.
So this is a beer that craft beer aficionados have almost certainly heard of these guys. If you're going to consider yourself, into the whole craft beer scene, you have to know what this is. The brewery is called Trillium. I had to go back and check. I could have sworn that I mentioned these guys previously, but no. So Trillium is based in Massachusetts. They have 2 brewery locations, one in the city of Boston, the other in Canton. I have been to the Boston location. It's very small, basically just a counter. It's not like a place to hang out. The Canton location, I understand, is really more where you could go and get a flight and chill and hang out for a couple hours. But their beer, like across the board, is just considered like amongst the best of the best. They make a ton of different IPAs, pale ales. They do occasionally do sours, but you can't find it in stores in New York. You have to go up there to the brewery.
Any Goses? How about those Goses? Yes.
I don't know if I've ever seen them make a Gosa.
I see.
I think they do distribute to restaurants and bars in like the surrounding area up there, but you're not going to find it here. You got to go. You got to take the trip.
Is it worth the trip?
Well, I wouldn't say to go there and just to come back. Like I wouldn't. It's after all, it is just beer. Okay, I wouldn't drive. I wouldn't drive 4 hours, each way just to get like some beer. I mean,
have one of your relatives ever made the trip just to get beer and come back?
I did go, and because I was in the Cape Cod area and it wasn't too far, and we made a day out of it. So one of their well-known beers is called the Galaxy Dry Hopped Fort Point Pale Ale. They also have a standard Fort Point Pale Ale. It's just these pale ales, these IPAs, they're just very citrusy, full of flavor, not too hoppy, just very enjoyable for an IPA. Have you had a Trillium before?
I don't believe so, actually. No.
It's almost like beer that's like candy. It's that good. It's a candy. I mean, it's just incredible stuff that they make. I don't know what their magic formula is, but if you ever have the opportunity, you being all you out there, to have some Trillium, seize the day. Seize the
Carpe,
moments.
carpe hipsta diem.
So let's enjoy tomorrow night. And how many do the Islanders play over the weekend? Actually, I haven't checked their schedule.
Yes, they will play in Washington, I believe, on Saturday.
And then next week?
And then they play like their 17 home games, like in the span of like 20 games.
So when's their opener?
Home opener. Oh yes, home opener would be Sunday. Home opener will be on NFL Football Sunday against the Anaheim Ducks. Hot ticket indeed. I think you can get a ticket for like $20 for like front row or whatever. Like lower bowl. Center ice.
So next week, when we do our show next week, we may be recapping 3 games already, at least 3.
Yep. You got tomorrow, you got Saturday, Sunday, and then Tuesday they will be at home against San Jose.
Wow.
So there you go, 4 games.
So if we come back in a week's time, we'll have 4 games.
4 games. Yep. The NHL season is underway, and it doesn't miss a beat, doesn't skip a beat.
All right.
Next.
That's it.
Yep.
All right. So enjoy some hockey, enjoy some baseball, enjoy some football, enjoy some rape trials, and away we go. All right. Bye.
All right. Bye.